Top story this week, a few bad men. Resignation roundup. And this week, a hot new trend burst onto the scene, Andy. Resigning in disgrace. Anyone was doing it. Both General Petraeus and the Director General of the BBC stepped down with not just clouds, but huge raging typhoons over their heads. At first, General David Petraeus, the military hero more heavily decorated than a 6-year-old's birthday cake, resigned as head of the CIA after it emerged that he'd had an affair with his biographer. And this was something of a shock here in the US, Andy, as not only is David Petraeus something of a national hero, but he's notoriously formal and disciplined. The words David Petraeus and sex scandal had, until this week, seemed to go together as naturally as the words Gandhi and street brawl. The affair was uncovered during an FBI investigation into threatening emails.
What a TV show that would have been. Mahatma Gandhi's street brawl. Can he train up a team of pacifists
Ross
to
Kemp on
become
Gandhi.
violent hoodlums on the streets of India?
You want some? Do you want some? The affair was uncovered during an FBI investigation into some threatening emails sent by Petraeus' biographer/mistress to Jill Kelly, a so-called social liaison for the military. Seemingly, his mistress felt threatened by this other lady and decided to send her harassing messages, intentionally telling her to back off my man. Well, I say my man, I guess he's technically his wife's man, but... And also that my man is technically the husband that I'm currently cheating on, but you get my point. Back the off, bitch! And if this is already starting to sound like plot points to a daytime soap opera, then you haven't seen anything yet. In fact, it might be easiest to absorb the tawdry events of this week in that format. The story so far. David Petraeus, the general, married father of 2, director of the CIA and retired 4-star general, resigned last Friday afternoon after it emerged that he had stubbed his biographer, Paula Broadwell. The other lady, married, mother of 2 and West Point graduate. Paula wrote in an in-depth biography of Petraeus, the first draft of which was apparently a 240-page detailed description of the diameter of his penis. After considerable publisher's notes, it was later changed to a 240-page history of his military service instead. Their secret stubbing was concealed by a covert system of saving draft emails and saving them in a joint email account, which was only uncovered when Paula started sending threatening emails to Jill Kelly, the other lady, married, mother of 3, Tampa resident, socialite, unpaid military social liaison, party planner, and hot tamale. When she received Paula's threatening email, she contacted Fred Humphreys, the FBI agent who launched an FBI investigation, which he was quickly removed from when it emerged that he'd emailed shirtless photos of himself to Jill Kelly, the other lady, who it emerged during the investigation was exchanging thousands of flirtatious emails with General John Allen, the other man, 4-star general and top US commander in Afghanistan, a position that he took over from David Petraeus, the general. And so, Andy, this whole sordid, although not actually that physically sordid story, comes full circle.
I guess it just proves the age-old rule, John, as old as time itself, which says if you are one of the highest-ranking officials in the world's current number 1 ranked superpower and one of the most respected former soldiers in the world's biggest military nation, do not, if you can possibly help it, put your penis into the wrong person. Mm-hmm. There's just any way that can be avoided. Do try to avoid it. And I know, it seems odd, John, but it does seem that it's more difficult to control one penis than an army of 200,000 people, many of whom, ironically, also have penises. But,
yes, yeah.
But it's just always been the way, isn't it?
Maybe it's worth writing that on his hand so he can read it, or definitely on his penis, just so that if he ever gets down there, look down at his penis. You know what? This was the one thing I was not supposed to do.
Maybe you can, to go with your wristbands, your CTFC wristbands. You can have a special
great idea.
Penis band.
That's a great idea.
What WWAFSGD? What would a 4-star general do?
That's right. And when you become a figurehead in an army, you should be given, just as you're given your 4th star, you should also be given that penis band.
There are penis bands out there on the market, but I think they're there to actively encourage sex rather than...
Well, Prince Albert, of course, famously had a wang ring, didn't he?
Did.
I mean, that was the original penis band. That was said, you are now married to the Queen of England.
Yeah,
don't
that's
put
what it had
this in
written down
anyone
the side
else.
Yep. That's right. That's right. She insisted on that.
Yeah, I mean, the errant wang, prong-drabbling a contraband pluke has, of course, been responsible for scandals and resignations since the dawn of time, or at least since 2500 BC, when 4th Dynasty pharaoh Shepseskaf was caught in flagrante with a woman called Dawn from the ancient Sumerian city of Time. He elected not to be buried in a pyramid. Instead, he was buried in a mastaba tomb called the Mastabet el Afaroun, which his name. This is the fact.
Hold on, because it doesn't sound like a fact. Nothing you just said sounds like a fact.
It is a fact. He was buried in a tomb called a Mastabet, whose name does suggest that he learnt his lesson and steered clear of sexual temptation.
In all, God, this got blue fast. I guess it's not surprising. In all this mess, there's actually only one confirmed affair, but it's been enough to plunge the military and the FBI into chaos all week, with rumours flying around ranging from Paula Broadwell had access to classified documents to the entire Pentagon is a bacchanalian fest. Petraeus resigned almost immediately.
Why did Mitt Romney not say that during the campaign?
Yeah. You know, it couldn't have gone worse for him. Petraeus, he lost almost all the swing states. You know, well, he may as well have thrown one out there. Petraeus resigned almost straight away, bringing his long career of public service to a sadly grubby end. And there are lots of questions that still remain, such as 1, what the was he thinking? 2, did he expose the US to blackmail or jeopardise any national secrets? 3, how does the director of the CIA get caught by email? And 4, seriously, what the was he thinking? As for General Allen, that is still under investigation, and there's no evidence so far of any actual physical affair. That would be a problem if there was, because under Article 134 of the United Joint Military Code, any adultery could get him jailed for a year, as that article forbids, and I quote, adulterous conduct that has a tendency, because of its open or notorious nature, to bring the service into disrepute, make it subject to public ridicule, or lower it in the public esteem. Andy, when you put it like that... Oh, it just sounds so sexy. I'm going to come over to your apartment and I'm going to expose the military to public ridicule and lower it in the public esteem. And I'm going to do it all night long. Damn.
There must have been some quite awkward talk between General Petraeus and his biographer. Are you definitely not writing Volume 2? Do you absolutely promise? OK, away you go. Also, I'm a bit disappointed on it because he resigned basically before the witch hunt had even got going. I mean, that is not how you're supposed to let a scandal play out. And they just could have run for a couple of months before he was finally handed out of office in disgrace. I think this is a disgraceful case of jumping the gun before the media has had their fill.
Now, just to reiterate, there is no evidence of a physical affair so far between General Allen and Jill Kelly, but the FBI apparently found between 20,000 and 30,000 pages of flirtatious emails between the two of them in the past year alone that they are currently going through, which also raises a lot of questions, such as 1, what the was he thinking? 2, how the did he have the time to send 30,000 flirtatious emails in a year when he was overseeing the war in Afghanistan? 3, how the does anyone have the time to send 30,000 flirtatious emails in a year, even when they're not overseeing a war? 4, how does anyone send 30,000 flirtatious emails in a lifetime? How is it possible there are 30,000 different flirtatious things to say? And 5, seriously, what the was he thinking? For all the attention and upheaval that this has caused, it is actually a pretty low-grade and unimpressive scandal, as scandals go. Some of my favourite reactions came from people in Pakistan who were interviewed on the streets of Karachi by the Global Post over the last week, and many of the people spoken to were surprised by the level of honour showed by Petraeus in resigning. Or, you know, the fact that they're so surprised by the level of honour of a man who cheated on his wife and used email tricks to try and cover his tracks, that perhaps that shows more about the morality levels of Pakistani politicians than it does anything else. But one vendor said, maybe he was just a man who fell in love. I'd like to see a photograph of his lady. Now, I don't know quite how that would have cleared things up in his mind, Andy, but he seemed pretty sure that it would help. Lots of the reaction, though, was understandably around one particular thing. Faiz Mumtaz said, we're hopeful that this means less drones. Now, again, I don't know how Petraeus cheating on his wife might lead to less drone strikes, but I guess in their position, the Pakistanis. That's pretty much what you're hoping for whenever anything happens. Oh, Drew Brees has just thrown a touchdown pass in a record 50-second consecutive game. I hope this means less drones. Oh, Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez have broken up. I hope this means less drones. Oh, President Obama is going to ceremonially pardon some Thanksgiving turkeys next week in the White House. I hope this means less f***ing drones. Though, you know, that might be a bit of a stretch. I guess the problem is when you give up hope, you just become numbers on a drone dartboard. Because, just to put those statements in context, in the last 4 years alone, Obama has authorised nearly 300 drone strikes in Pakistan, a country that the US is not technically at war with. That's pretty impressive droning.
But it's going to be tough for Petraeus, John. He's got to hand in all the perks of being CIA director, the salary of upwards of $5,000 a year, the Bond-style car that can project rotating blades from its wheels and fire a plume of flames from its windscreen wipers, the personal CIA director's collection of professional rebels that he was entitled to send in to destabilise one government a year of his choice, and, of course, his CIA chair with the words Bertie Bignut stitched across the back.
It's all about the perks.
Yeah.
It's never about the salary, that job. It's all about the perks. It goes right back to Hoover.
It really is extraordinary. A man who's won so many military medals could lapse in judgment so much. So he's won more military medals than most people have watched war films. Although one of his medals was for getting through Saving Private Ryan without saying, well, that really tailed off, didn't it? 4-star general as well. That's a pretty good review, John. I mean, I would buy a ticket to see him do some war just on the back of that. You're guaranteed to get good quality warfare. Maybe not the brilliance and originality of a 5-star general, but certainly much better than a humdrum, predictable 3-star general. I mean, of course, you might pay to go and see a 1-star general just to see what makes them so bad, or a bit of a laugh just to see some really shit war. But to be honest, that's your own money you're wasting.
Even the Taliban have had a response to the Petraeus affair, because when it was mentioned to a quoted stony-faced Taliban official during an interview with the AFP this week...
Is there any need to put those words in?
I know. Yeah, not the lightest personality. When it was mentioned to him during an interview, he, and I quote, literally laughed out loud. Before going on to point out the differences in the response to the scandal that they would have had. This Taliban official said, from a Pashtun point of view, Petraeus should be shot by relatives from his mistress's family. From a Sharia point of view, he should be stoned to death. All of that, Andy, is apparently some material from his Pashtuns versus Sharia comedy album. Pashtuns killed adulterers like this. Pow, pow, pow! Whereas Sharias kill adulterers like this. Yeah, yeah. Pass me that jagged one. Yeah. I'm here all week. Do not tip your waitresses. They should not be here. And even the Taliban official, Andy, even he did not think this particular scandal was a big deal, saying, and again I quote, it's quite normal for Americans and Western people to behave like this. They live in free sex societies where no one cares about this sort of thing, so what do you expect? That's the problem, Andy. All of this, relatively speaking, is pretty tame. And when you're an empire, when you're leading the world, your scandals are frankly supposed to be better than this. Caligula turned his palace into a brothel, had sex with his sisters, appointed his horse to be a priest, and once, when presiding over some games, he ordered his guards to throw an entire section of the crowd into the arena during the interval because there were no criminals to be prosecuted and he was bored. Even now, there are other countries putting the US to shame with scandals. In the UK, in 1994, MP Stephen Milligan was found dead, partly naked, partly cross-dressed, mid-autoerotic asphyxiation, with an electric cord around his neck and an orange in his mouth. That is a f***ing scandal, Andy. All Petraeus did was shtup someone who wasn't Mrs. Petraeus.
America's lost its edge, John.
It's so sad.
And now, a quick David Petraeus quiz. Question 1 of 1. David Petraeus is known as Peaches Petraeus. Why was he so called? A, if you don't know the answer, you've clearly never seen him coming out of the shower. B, because he's soft and squidgy on the outside with smooth downy skin, but has a tough, indigestible core. C, because he lasts longer but becomes less tasty if he's kept in the fridge. D, because he's obsessed with Peaches Geldof and has a tattoo of the celebrity daughter on his left buttock. Or E, because when he was a child, other children found the word Petraeus too difficult to say. Very much like baseball commentators finding pujols too difficult to say and saying poo-holes instead. Do write your answers on your own hand and then refer to the internet.